I check it like you read Sing spelling it, yeah? I really don't mind.
You hit me once, I hit you back.
He's bowling like my Auntie Annie when she'd had too much sherry to drink.
Played over my head, then I set fire.
मैंने कहा बेटा बेटा होता है और बाप बाप होता है.
Hello and welcome to Pie Checkers Cricket Podcast. This is Vivek and I'm joined by my fellow Pie Checkers, Sai, Shivam and Sumer. Welcome guys.
Hi.
Hi. In today's episode, we have the honor of having someone who represented India at the highest level. Our guest is number 154 to have represented India in one-day internationals. A Ranji Trophy stalwart with a career spanning 16 years, scoring 6,938 at an average of 44 in first-class cricket, to go along with his handy left-arm spin, picking up crucial wickets, and a gun fielder. We all remember that catch of Andrew Simons back in the day. He is now a Red Devils supporter and an accomplished broadcaster. Rohan Gavaskar, thank you for joining us at the Pie Checkers Cricket Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I just want to say that I'm not now a Red Devil supporter. I've always been a Red Devil supporter.
Corrected. Always a Red Devil supporter.
Always been a Red Devil supporter.
Excellent. So now keeping in mind our team's form, the longest form, we will start with a T20 shootout. This is a rapid fire round where my fellow pie checkers, Sai and Shivam, will ask you questions and you will have to give the answers in not more than a few words.
Sure.
And probably within 10 seconds. And thank you. Sai, over to you.
Sure. Which would you choose, a Ranji Trophy final win or an ODI 100?
Tough one. I think I choose an ODI 100.
Toughest bowler you ever faced in Ranji or international?
Well, actually more than bowlers, it's spells. So there's certain spells that you face. It's tough to pinpoint one bowler, but there've been a few spells which have been very good.
Okay. Two players you were a fanboy of in your early cricket days, an Indian and a foreigner.
Karsan Ghavri and Jeff Thompson.
R. Ashwin or Nathan Lyon?
R. Ashwin.
One bowler you would blindly throw a ball to in the super over?
Jasprit Bumrah.
And the better manager for Man U, Mourinho or Solskjaer?
At the moment, I'm going to go with Ole.
One batter you would send into bat to save a test match if your life depended on it?
Sunil Gavaskar.
Who do you like more, Rohit Sharma, the IPL captain, or Virat Kohli, the international captain?
I think they're both really good because if you have a look at both records, Virat's got a very decent record at the international level and Rohit's record as in the IPL is phenomenal. So both very good, on par.
One player of your time who could not go on for international honours, you reckon would have been a shoe-in today's India's test squad?
Amol Muzumdar.
Your favourite commentator?
Simon Dool and Tommy Mavangwa. And
who is your 1 a.m. friend from cricket circle?
I've got a few. I'm going to go with Ajit Agarkar, Kiran Pawar, Amol Muzumdar, and Abhishek Jhunjhunwala.
Okay. What's tougher as weight of expectations, being Sunny Sir the cricketer's son or being Sunny Sir the broadcaster's son?
It's actually being Sunil Gavaskar, the man's son. Cricket and broadcasting is just what people do, but to try and be half the man that he is, that's what I try and achieve.
Fair enough.
Perfect. All right. So with that, we'll move on a little to a slightly more long format questions. You talked about how obviously there is a lot of influence of cricket in the family. When did you personally decide or thought of taking cricket as a sport or as a professional, a career, so to speak?
I don't think anyone really decides. I mean, back in the day, no one really decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It's just a natural progression. You start playing under 14, you do well, then you want to play under 16, you do well, you want to play under 19s, you do well, then you want to play Ranji Trophy. you do well, you want to play, Duleep Trophy, India A, India, you start doing well. So it's a natural progression. If you don't do well at the under 16 level, this is not the sport for you. This may not be the profession for you. If you're not doing well at the under 19 level, if you're not doing well at club cricket level, then okay, listen, this is not. I don't think I have an opportunity to maybe succeed in this sport. Then you try and look at doing something else. But it's otherwise, if you're a cricketer, it's always a natural progression because you're doing well at the age group level. From there, you move on. So there's never really a time where you think, okay, listen, this is going to be what I do in my life.
Interesting. Take things as they come and go. Okay. Now I want to maybe touch upon this. So I remember Sunny sir saying that he was glad that you were a left-hander and not an opener, but a middle-order batsman. Of course, he's acknowledging the fact that there's a lot of expectations, the weight of expectations on your shoulders that you will be carrying, being a part of such a famous father, a great cricketer, a man. So walk us through that pressure. You've obviously handled that so well. You've played for domestic circuit for all these years. Did you also, like, for example, go to him for any tips? How did he support your cricketing ambitions? Walk us through that process. How did you, first of all, feel about being in that family, and then how did that turn out?
How did what turn out? Being in the family? I think being in the family turned out pretty well. I've got to say that turned out pretty well, being in the family.
No, I mean, being in that family, did you go to him for tips? You obviously had,
yeah, of course. I mean,
the best man ever to maybe talk to you after the games and so on. But let us know of how he was to you as maybe a personal coach or something like that.
I think growing up, he sort of let me develop my game on my own, left it to the coaches who were, where I was going, my Podar coach, V.S. Patil sir, he had enough faith and trust in Patil sir, who obviously had played with a lot of cricket at Dadar Union. So he wouldn't interfere too much. As I started playing Ranji Trophy, I realized that whenever, if I needed some help, if I was getting out in a certain way, if there was a certain dismissal or a certain type of delivery which was troubling me, I'd speak to him and he'd help sort out those chinks in my armor. So in that sense, he was always there for me. But I think, again, one of the good things that he did was he let me be my own man and develop my cricket at my own pace and at my own in my own style.
Right. So he never pushed you to become the aggressive pace bowler that he himself was.
No, I think he realized that I didn't have the quite have the bouncer that he did.
Interestingly, I mean, you've obviously done so great, handling that pressure over these years, playing at that level. But walk us through also, for example, how you started playing at the domestic level. How did Bengal, for example, happen? How did you end up there? And how was the stint there? What do you still remember from your days there?
Bengal simply happened because I was 18 and I had a really good season in Mumbai domestic club cricket, and I wasn't picked in the Mumbai probables for the next season, and that was disappointing because I'd scored tons and tons of runs. I'd got over 10 hundreds in the season. Had a really good under-19 season as well. So I was disappointed that I was in the probables, and I knew I was ready to play first-class cricket. The other thing I also knew was that Mumbai had a very strong batting lineup over there, and I honestly knew that I wouldn't break into that Mumbai batting lineup at that point when I was 19, because they had Sanjay Manjrekar, they had Vinod Kambli, Sachin, Jatin Paranjpe, Amol was already playing over there. Zubin Barucha was part of the squad. So they had a very strong batting lineup, and I knew I wasn't going to break into that 11, and I knew I was ready to play first-class cricket. So I took my chances. I shifted bag and baggage to Calcutta, Kolkata, and played a year of club cricket over there. Did well in the club circuit. And then the following season, I got picked to play for Bengal. So the move was, I think, primarily because I knew I was good enough to play first-class cricket, and I knew I wouldn't get an opportunity in Mumbai at that point, simply because Mumbai had a very strong batting lineup.
Right, interesting. Any stories you have from your days of playing cricket there, like any anecdotes or people you want to maybe mention?
No, I think I keep telling a lot of people this. I think cricket's fine, but one of the reasons why I sort of played 15, 16 years for Bengal was because of a lot of people outside of cricket who made me very comfortable, looked after me really well. I've got to mention Jayanto uncle and auntie. They were they were like another family to me over there, and they still are. I mean, they looked after me like parents look after a son.
Mhm.
So I've got to mention them, and I've got to mention my friends, Saurav Chatterjee, Bambi Das, again, guys who, whose family, not just the friends, but their families also looked after me when I was there, and that helped me settle down. Um, and sort of, when you're away from family for so long, you're looking, it can get lonely, it can get depressing at times, but like I said, Jayanto uncle, Saurav's family, Bambi's family, they looked after me and made sure that I was always felt like I was at home.
Right. So what has been more fun, being a cricketer or being a broadcaster? So
Being a cricketer,
of both,
absolutely.
maybe.
No, being a cricketer, there's no substitute to that feeling when you're on the ground and getting 100 or picking up wickets or your team's winning. There's you can't substitute that feeling. Being a broadcaster, I'd say, is the second best thing. But the camaraderie that you share with your teammates while playing a game, the highs, the lows, nothing beats that.
Fair enough. Nothing beats the kick of a winning run or a winning wicket or the last ball
Yeah,
thriller.
no, absolutely.
And Rohan, we whenever we friends discuss or watch match, we obviously up to WhatsApp group है, तो we discuss everything कि यार ये क्या shot खेल दिया, ये क्या जरूरत थी, अभी क्यों हवा में खेल दिया, इस बॉलर को क्यों लाए, यार ये क्या बैटिंग कर रहा है, यार नहीं बनता है. I mean, see, we are just armchair critics and we are fans, so we love doing it. So do you guys, I'm sure like you have your 1am friends, do you also have WhatsApp groups, and maybe never in public, I'm sure, but do you guys also maybe loosely shit on players like ये क्या खेल रहा है यार, ये क्यों खेला, अभी नहीं बनता था, ये क्या कर रहे हैं? Do you guys also do
No,
that?
I
Does it
think
happen?
when you talk about 1am friends, are you talking about cricketing friends, or are you talking about just general
Yeah,
friends?
cricket or in general also.
No, I mean, look, I don't think anyone who's ever played the sport will shit on another person or another player, because at whatever level he's playing, whether he's playing Ranji Trophy or he's playing Duleep Trophy or he's playing for India, it's taken a lot of hard work and not just hard work, it takes a lot of skill to get to a certain level. You're not playing Ranji Trophy unless you have a certain amount of skill in you. You're not playing India A or Duleep Trophy or India if you don't have a certain amount of skill and a whole lot of hard work to go alongside that skill. So no one's really going to shit on anyone. You might be disappointed if you're a fan about certain shots that are played off, a catches dropped, but having played the game, that can happen to anyone. Anyone can have a bad day, anyone can have a great day, but that's all part and parcel of the game. I mean, sometimes when you're commentating and you're broadcasting, you have to call it as you see it. So even though you can maybe understand that, okay, listen, this person's going through a bit of a rough patch, you still have to call it and say, look, he is going through a rough patch and maybe he should do something different. And you may empathize with him and say, okay, listen, I know he's struggling at the moment and probably his next innings will be better, but you still got to call it as you see it.
So recently, Rohan, we were listening to a podcast where Greg Chappell was mentioning that the amount of cricket which India plays, especially at the junior levels, and the talent which we have, we can easily have 5 teams representing India at international level, and they all will be world beaters. What kind of pulls Australia away from India is the way Australian setup looks after the players who reach the club level or the state level. That is where kind of the gulp happens. Is that something which you echo, or how do you see it?
And I agree. I think at the under 19 level, we are head and shoulders above everyone else. And I think that's pretty much evident over the way we've been performing in the under-19 World Cups over the last decade or so. Always, either in the semi-final, finals, or winning it, and the talent that we throw up from these under-19 World Cups. I mean, you look at not this batch of under-19, look at the previous batch which had Prithvi Shaw, Shubman, Nagarkoti, Mavi, and you look at this year's World Cup players, Karthik, Tyagi, Bishnoi, Jaiswal, Priyam Garg, all playing in the IPL, which tells you that it's a very high standard of cricket that our under-19 players are playing. Yashasvi with a list A double 100 under his name already. So our under-19 level is extremely high. I think what happens at the first class level is because we have so many teams as opposed to Australia having fewer teams. So if you have fewer teams, that means the competition to break into a first class side is that much harder. So the quality of first class matches is a lot, I won't say a lot higher, but it's higher because you've only got a pool of 75 or 100 first class players, while in India your pool of first class players is a lot bigger. So obviously the quality can get diluted a little bit, but in terms of talent and in terms of skill level, I mean, we are second to none really. I mean, you look at players. Forget the international level. At the international level, like I said, if you look at the pace bowling department, you look at someone like a Bumrah, phenomenal. If you look at the batting side of it, you've got Virat, who's an all-time great. So there's everyone knows what the international scene is like. We've got some quality players, but even below that, I mean, like Greg Chappell said, if you look at T. Natarajan, suddenly he's come out of nowhere, did well in the IPL, now he's doing the business at the international level. That tells you the kind of talent we have in India.
Sure. So now there is currently a discussion happening that we will change the Ranji Trophy format. The proposal is to split the elite teams into 5 groups instead of the current 3, which would reduce the number of matches from 169 to 113, which at one end means we have a domestic season which is less crowded, which means there is less travel, which will lessen the workload for people who have been going to feature in the IPL or in the India A tours. But at the other end, if you look at it, the number of matches a team or a player, especially a French player, gets is reduced from 8 to 5. Now, as per what I understand, each player gets around 1.4 lakhs per match. And having 5 matches per season, and just to put it into context, an England player plays 14 matches per season, and an Australia player plays 10 matches per season, which means kind of reduced earnings. So, I mean, at one end, people are saying this will improve the competitive nature of the tournament, but then the financial demands of a player, is it being considered? I mean, what's your take on this?
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I know BCCI gets a lot of criticism. Okay, BCCI, a lot of people are happy to just throw muck at BCCI and criticize BCCI, say BCCI doesn't do this. But you ask players of the previous generation, players who played in the 70s, 80s, 90s, which association in the world gives ex-players a monthly pension? For a lot of players, you're talking about a financial constraint or whatever, but for a lot of players from the 60s, 70s, 80s, who obviously now are probably, have retired and whatever, for them to get a monthly pension from BCCI, we don't talk enough about that. We don't talk about the good stuff that BCCI does. We always looking at ways to criticize BCCI. Say, okay, listen, BCCI doesn't do this. Why are they doing this? Ye kyun kiya, wo kyun nahi kiya, ye kyun nahi. But what about the things that they actually do? Which association in the world? I'm not talking about a corporate association. I'm talking about a sporting association or a sporting body gives. And you know how many players that get pension? I mean, across, if you look at players from the 60s or 70s, and this is not just international players, it's players who played first class cricket up to a certain number of matches get a pension. So even though you may have missed the boat, as far as international cricket's concerned, if you had done the hard work and played a lot of first class matches, you will still get a pension. Now that's phenomenal, right? I mean, BCCI doesn't need to do it, but they do it. But they still get a lot of criticism. So in terms of coming back to your question about should matches be reduced, and if matches are reduced, will finances be reduced, but then the quality of cricket will improve? At one level, we're saying, we want the quality to be better. Now, when we're trying to do something to get the quality better, then we'll say, okay, no, but finances are going down. At some level, I think they'll have to sort of get the right balance where they can improve the quality. And obviously, for first-class cricketers, make sure that their financial needs are looked after, because again, this is their job. This is their profession. This is what, they work 7 days a week, 12 months in a year for. So you want them to make sure that financially the first-class cricketers are looked after.
So, I mean, so basically the overall feeling is that even though from a competitive aspect, it does make sense to have lesser number of matches and reduce the workload.
I'm not sure if lesser number of matches is what I think makes sense. I think lesser number of teams for me makes sense. Okay. You can have as many matches, but if you have lesser number of teams, that means that the quality of players getting into those teams is higher, and then you can play more matches. But lesser number of teams for me definitely makes sense.
Sure. So in one of the earlier podcasts, Rohan, you had mentioned that the typical Indian fan or a viewer is the supporter or is a fan of the overall package which we have, which we see, which is in ample display when you look at the IPL. But are we doing a lot? I mean, from a BCCI perspective or from any other perspective, are we doing a lot for the Ranji Trophy? I know the good part is now that the matches are being shown live, but is that enough? Are we kind of attracting a lot of viewers? Because
what would you suggest? Let me throw this back at you. What would you suggest?
Okay, sure. So when we have time or whenever we are looking at cricket, we amongst ourselves are actually watching BBL or the Sheffield Shield matches as well. And when we look at that, probably the quality of the production just looks a little bit higher when we look at the Sheffield Shield matches. And when the Ranji Trophy matches are there, we watch that as well. But it just feels...
I think they promote it a bit more as well. I don't think we promote it enough, to be honest.
So when you're saying promotion, what do you mean?
As in, when we televise it, जैसे पहले होता था, I mean, like when Challenger Trophy, etc. used to happen.
No, but what I'm saying is that if you're saying promotion and I thought you were talking more about spectators coming to grounds.
Yeah,
but
that also.
Come to grounds, that is, I mean, entry to the grounds is free. What more can anyone do? Entry is free. Come watch the game. It's free. But no one turns up. Now you can't blame anyone other than fans for not turning up when entry is free. I can understand if you say, okay, listen, they've got to pay some money and come and watch this, and they're saying, no, we'd rather save money and buy an IPL ticket because that will be more exciting. And I can understand that. If you say, okay, listen, families, within a budget have to work out and say, where are we going to spend this money? Would you rather watch an IPL game or would you rather watch a Ranji Trophy game? Anyone would say, listen, let's save money and get an IPL ticket for the family. But when entrance is free, entry is free, what more can you do? So if you're looking at, bums on seats at grounds, entry is free, you're getting good players to come and play, but people don't want to come and watch. Now that's, I would say, is not on, say, the state association or the BCCI. That's on the fans. The fans need to come in and watch. If the fans don't want to make the effort and come in and watch, you can't blame anyone other than the fans for that.
Sure. I just want to come in here for a second. So obviously we talk about Sheffield Shield. Maybe also take a look at the English, domestic, scene. The kind of, for example, fascination there is about, for example, domestic cricket there, the world over. Obviously, they've started playing cricket much before maybe India has, for example. But obviously, you can see the quality of the cricket being played. People look up to it outside of England as well. So maybe we should probably also come up with a plan or some sort of a.
But this has got nothing. This has got nothing to do with plan or cricket. This has got to do with sporting ethos and sporting culture. We do not have a sporting ethos or sporting culture. You're looking at county cricket. You look at say a 4th division football club, there's Swindon Town, or you look at Grimsby Town. They'll have 6,000.
And cricket is not even the
they'll
first.
They'll have packed stadiums. They'll have packed stadiums because the local community will go and support, a Swindon Town, or they'll support, whichever town they are in, so they'll go on the Saturday, Sunday. They'll watch those games, which in turns, because of them going to grounds, brings in money into the game, and so on, and makes it better. We don't have that sporting culture. We don't have that sporting ethos. So it's. And that's obviously prevalent in county cricket as well. You're supporting, say, Surrey or Middlesex or Yorkshire. You're members of Yorkshire County Cricket Club, or you're members of Surrey Cricket Club, and you'll go and watch the games. You'll do all of that. We don't have that ethos, and we don't have that culture. So it's got nothing to do with cricket as such. It's got to do a lot with our culture and our mindset.
IPL has done that right. At least it has created that sort of like
rivalry, maybe.
Yeah.
Fan base.
Yeah, but then again, IPL is, like I keep saying, is the whole shoshabazi, the face painting, and wear your yellow jersey, wear your blue jersey, wear your red jersey, go with your flags, halla gulla, shor machao, all that, come on TV, hopefully. It's that. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing because at least there we've got some really hardcore fans and, rivalries and, KKR versus Mumbai Indians, RCB versus CSK versus, Mumbai Indians in terms of, most successful teams, so on and so forth. So at least we've got that going. And the hope is that, future generations start, I beg your pardon, start following teams like that. And it shouldn't be prevalent on say, okay, I'm going to support Mumbai Indians because Rohit Sharma is in the team. You're supporting Mumbai Indians because you're from Mumbai. I'm not going to support RCB because Virat's in the team. You're supporting RCB because you're from Bengaluru, or you're supporting CSK because you're from Chennai, because that is your team. Where obviously, I'm not saying that a CSK fan has to be restricted to Chennai. He could be from wherever, but he's going to support CSK or he's going to support RCB or irrespective of the players playing in your side. The players will come and go, but your loyalty and what your team, what you feel for the team has to remain no matter which players come in and out of the side. If tomorrow Mumbai Indians, Rohit Sharma starts playing for KKR, you can't switch from Mumbai Indians to KKR, is what I'm trying to say. You've got to then still support Mumbai Indians because you've got to be a fan of the team, not a fan of the player.
So now, Rohan, we have been watching cricket for the last 20 years, and and with the explosion of media, we get a fair idea of how an international player's life is, or his journey to playing for India is, the kind of hard work which puts in, and then once you achieve a certain status, the kind of life you live, the kind of traveling you do, the hotels you travel to, places you go to, that's all okay. But how is a typical Ranji season for a fringe player like? Because all that we get to know is through certain articles.
It's actually not so bad.
Okay.
It's not so bad. You look at a Ranji Trophy player. He'll be traveling wherever he needs to travel. If the place has an airport, he'll travel by flight. He'll stay in probably the best hotel that is over there, or one of the best hotels that is over there. Everything's looked after. So it's not really that bad. It's great to romanticize and say, oh, the hardships of a Ranji Trophy player, itna struggle kar raha hai, ye kar raha hai. That used to be back in the day. And now these guys, you've got to remember that, okay, when you talk about a fringe player, a lot of the Ranji Trophy teams have a lot of IPL players. Now these IPL players are used to a certain way, and they aren't going to settle for less. Now tomorrow, if you're part of an IPL team, you're used to a certain way of traveling or certain creature comforts when you're playing the game. These associations now, the BCCI is luckily and fortunately in such a strong position financially that these associations can provide the best hotels and make sure that everything is comfortable for the Ranji Trophy players.
So there was another. I was listening to Amol Majumdar's podcast with Gaurav Kapoor, where he was mentioning his kind of transition from Mumbai to Assam, and when he reached Assam and he saw that the whole team had just one cement pitch or concrete wicket whatever we call that to practice on. So when I say that,
that was
kind
15
of like,
years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I mean like 2000. Okay, I believe it was
2010, around 2010.
2009,
So
2010.
just about the time that IPL was kicking off. That was 10, 12 years ago. So, I mean, that's a decade ago. A lot has changed within this 1 year. In 2020, only a lot has changed. So over 10 years, a lot has changed. I mean, you look at, say Andhra, you look at, some of the smaller states producing some great cricketers, some fantastic cricketers. Yeah. And yes, maybe the facilities in some of the bigger states, bigger cities, bigger teams might be better. But I think over the last 10, 15 years, a lot of the smaller teams, so-called smaller teams, have stepped up, and their facilities and what they provide to the players is a lot better now.
Great. I mean, that's really good to hear. Then, I mean, so moving on, it seems like selection to an Indian team has a variety of factors, like not just the weight of runs, but the stage on which you do it, the form of the incumbents.
Yeah.
What do you say to a young player who is consistently performing, yet is not kind of getting selected? Like, say, for example, Sky. What do you say to him, or what do you say to any player of his sort?
Yeah, look, I think Sky, I think everyone feels that he's been extremely unlucky not to have played so far, or especially this year. But, the one advice I'd give people is Mayank Agarwal. He just kept scoring runs after runs after runs after runs after runs. He was a machine, a run machine at the domestic level. And then he got his opportunity and obviously doing well at the international level. But as you rightly mentioned, it getting picked for India is a variety of combination. It's a combination of a variety of things. Obviously, scoring runs or taking wickets, making sure that there's a position available in the Indian team. Like tomorrow, if you're a number 3 or number 4 batsman, it's very unlikely that you're going to replace Cheteshwar or Virat. Yeah. So no matter how many runs you're scoring, it's going to be really tough for you to sort of get into that spot. You take someone like, even back in the day, I mean, people tend to forget that Virendra Sehwag was a middle order batsman. He had to become an opener just to find a place in that middle order, which had Dravid at 3, Sachin at 4, Saurav at 5, Lakshman at 6. So for someone of Virendra's quality, Viru's quality, and he's obviously, in my opinion, he's a great, in my opinion, an absolute genius. So for him also having to adjust to make way into the side tells you that, look, unless there's an opening at that level, no matter how many runs you score, it's going to be very tough for you to dislodge the person who's doing well there. So luck plays an important role. You've obviously got to keep performing, keep scoring runs. There might be a time when the opening comes up at the international level, but you may be going through a bad patch, but someone else might be doing well, and that other person might get picked. So, and it wouldn't matter how many runs you've scored 3 years ago or for 3 years. At that point, if you aren't scoring runs and someone else gets picked because he's scoring runs, that's unfortunate, but it happens. So it's a like you rightly said, it's a combination of a lot of factors, to get picked for your country.
Right. So speaking about scoring a lot of runs and um, uh, selection and opportunities, who do you think, for example, are the next big players? Either coming from domestic or we've seen in IPL that you feel will play a lot for India in the coming years.
I mean, I don't know. Can I say Shubman Gill? Because Shubman Gill's part of the Indian team, but he hasn't made his debut yet. So I think he's someone who could have a very long career. We mentioned Sky. I think Surya Kumar has shown over the last few years that he's an outstanding talent. And even though he may not be a youngster, I believe that he can have, if given the opportunity, he can have a 4-5 year career ahead of him. He's a fit cricketer, so that shouldn't really be a problem. You look at some of the youngsters, Karthik Tyagi, good fast bowler. I think Yashasvi Jaiswal is also a very exciting talent. You look at a lot of these under 19 players, coming up, the fast bowlers, Maui, Bishnoi looked very good. So look, there's enough talent. Like we mentioned before, like Greg Chappell said, I mean, we can probably pick 3 teams to play at the international level.
Shifting track to the current Indian Test lineup. The current Indian fast bowling lineup is touted to be amongst the best ever in Indian Test cricket history. Has the fast bowling been the sole reason for India becoming a more competitive outfit in Test cricket abroad?
I mean, it helps because, when you have a really good fast bowling lineup, the opposition is also wary of, producing out and out green pitches. I mean, the quality of pitches now when India travels abroad are more batting friendly rather than bowling friendly. I mean, you look at the last time we toured Australia, those pitches were flat. They weren't your usual Australian pitches, and that's why I find a lot of stats can be askew. People can look at numbers and say, "Oh, but he scored so many runs there." And there's a new phrase now that a lot of fans try to throw out. What's he done in Sena countries? Sena. I mean, what does that mean? International runs are international runs, and how do you quantify? You can pick out numbers from certain angles and say, okay, this is right, this is wrong. Someone might say this batsman's not got 100 in South Africa.
I think Sachin hasn't got a Lord's 100.
No, yeah, but if someone say, okay, he's not got 100 at South Africa, but what if he's been dismissed in the 80s 5 times? Does that take away from the fact that he's not scored hundreds in South Africa, England, or whatever? There was a lot of talk about Virat Kohli having to score runs in the last England tour in England to score to show that he's a great player. Why? Why does Virat Kohli have to score runs in England to prove he's a great player? He's a great player, period. He doesn't need to score runs in England. By that logic, that logic only tends to apply to batsmen, though, I've realized. Everyone says Dennis Lillee is one of the greatest bowlers, fast bowlers. What's his record in the subcontinent? I don't think he has a great record in the subcontinent. And not for a minute am I saying that Dennis Lillee is not a great bowler. I'm saying he is a great bowler. But that yardstick doesn't seem to apply to bowlers. That yardstick of having to take wickets in the subcontinent or having to take wickets on batsman-friendly pitches, it doesn't seem to apply to bowlers. This whole thing of he needs to score runs in Australia, he needs to score runs in England, he needs to score runs in New Zealand only seems to apply to batsmen. And pitches change. Pitches pitches change according to what your team strengths are. Pitches in Australia, like I said, the last 2 were flat. They weren't your usual bouncy fast pitches, so run scoring was easy as compared to what it was earlier.
So in contrast, I mean, we talk about the fast bowling stocks being quite full in India. In contrast, the Test spinning slots have been dominated by Ashwin and Jadeja for quite a long time now. Is there a little bit of concern that we haven't been able to blood in any new young test spinners? And who's there on the horizon who we can look to going forward for test cricket?
Right, it's a big concern. I think, as you rightly said, our fast bowling department is well stocked. Our spin bowling department is a little depleted. But look, again, going back earlier, if you got someone of Ashwin's quality playing, why? I mean, it's very tough for anyone to sort of break in. Or even like say Jaddu, very handy with the bat, in Indian conditions and even overseas when he bowls, he does his job brilliantly. So no, there is no opportunity for anyone to break in because these two are doing magnificently well at that level. I mean, unfortunately for Ashwin is that he's a bowler. If his numbers, if you translate them as a batsman, we'd be hailing him as a genius. His numbers are absolutely top notch. His numbers are right up there with the best to have ever played the game. But we don't seem to give him the kind of I'm not going to say respect, but I'm a kind of credit that he deserves.
So we've looked at fast bowling, spin bowling, and now we'll just flip it to fielding. Wanted to get your view on what is the role and importance of a fielding coach in elite level of cricket. And let me, preface this entire question by saying that I ask it because India apparently has a professional fielding coach as part of the coaching setup. But the previous, most recent test in Australia, India dropped a bunch of catches. Now, the batting performance probably overshadowed the fielding. But when and where do you draw a line? When do you hold a coach accountable? Dropping 6 to 7 catches is, in any other sport, might be a fireable offense for a coach.
Well, see, I think it's a good point to make about the fielding coach, and I think what I remember, I think it was early 2000 or mid 2000. I think we'd got Trevor Penny as our fielding coach for the Indian team. And my view at that point was that get Trevor Penny in, pay him whatever you're paying him, but make him the fielding coach of the academy. Because when he joined the Indian team, we had Tendulkar, Harbhajan Singh, Zahir Khan, Saurav Ganguly, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble, experienced quality players who were playing the game for about 25, 30 years. You weren't going to be able to change their fielding techniques. I'm not saying that they were bad fielders. They were, some of them were outstanding fielders. But you're not going to be able to change their fielding technique at this age, right? At the age of 30, 32, you can't suddenly expect Zahir Khan to field in a different way. You can't expect Harbhajan to field in a different way. You can't expect Sachin to do something differently because his technique is molded. So make sure that your fielding coach, whoever you've got, is with the under-19s, with the academy. So your next batch of cricketers that come through have the right fielding skills, and they've picked up the right habits, they've picked up good habits, they've learned what to do, what not to do, and so on and so forth. So, look, even going back to your point about catches being dropped, it happens. I think our fielding standards have improved tremendously. I think no one points fingers at us and say, okay, listen, India is now a bad fielding unit. We've got some absolute gun fielders. So I don't think that's the case anymore, where people can look and say, okay, listen, India, dodgy in fielding. Those days are gone. So in terms of the role of the fielding coach, obviously he's there. He's seeing your fielding techniques. If he notices that you're doing something wrong, he can go up and tell you like, okay, listen, boss, this is what's going wrong. I think you can work on this. You can work on that, and that's what he's there for.
Moving from fielding to batting, Rohan, I think 36 is one number that will be spoken more of. What happened in Adelaide now, I think Sunny sir and yourself can hear a bit less of that number probably now. But it was absolutely unbelievable. In fact, we were also discussing among ourselves, once in a generation kind of a score. I don't know when 42 happened. I mean, we never thought we could ever see such a low score by an Indian team in our lifetime, honestly. So, is there any way back for India in this series?
No. Of course, look, we have to realize that this was the perfect storm. Everything that could go right for the Australian bowlers went right for them. Everything that could go wrong for the Indian batsmen went wrong for them. Quite often you see when a bowler is bowling a good spell, a batsman might play and miss, or a nick might fall short, between the slip and gully. But none of that happened over here. You nicked one, boom, caught, back in the dressing room. Didn't even play and miss. So look, it was the perfect storm. Everything that could go right for Australia went right for Australia. Everything that could go wrong for India went wrong for India. Yeah, obviously, it was disappointing. But in regards to can we come back? Of course we can. I mean, these guys are seasoned professional cricketers who have they're not newbies, so who have performed at that stage. I mean, you look at Cheteshwar. I mean, the last time he was in Australia, he was magnificent. The number of runs he scored, so he has that confidence behind him, and one innings isn't going to shatter that confidence. What I will do say though, that is, yes, it's going to be a lot harder going forward in the series, and not because of the 36. It's not going to be harder because of 36. It's going to be harder because Australia will probably have David Warner back at some point, and we will be without Virat. So that's our top player not there for the rest of the series. So that obviously, I mean, it was the case when we toured Australia last time. They were without Warner and Smith, and that hampered them. In that series, without Warner and Smith, we were always going to start as favourites. If you had asked me before the series, who's going to win the series, Australia, India, I'd have said India, because you're without Warner and Smith. So that's going to handicap you. And it's the same with us. They're getting Warner back. We are losing Virat. So it's going to be tougher because of that. And not tougher because we were allowed for 36.
So you mentioned Virat, not only Virat, now we're also losing Shami. So
yeah.
According to you, Rohan, not what India will do. According to you, from whatever you've seen, whatever the Indian squad is, what should be the 11, or what would your Rohan Gavaskar's 11 for the second test match be?
My 11 for the second test match would be obviously so Shami will be out. Obviously, Virat is not there, and I would drop Prithvi Shaw. I'd get Shubman Gill in. Instead of Virat, KL will come in. Instead of Shami, it's actually a toss-up between Siraj and Saini. It would depend on who's bowling better in the nets. I'm not privileged to know who's sort of bowling well or who's in rhythm. That the team management will take a call, see who's bowling well. And I'll also play Rishabh Pant in place of Hanuma Vihari. Now, a lot of people say, oh, Rishabh Pant and not Saha. And I had said that earlier also. I tweeted it and people didn't understand what I tweeted. When I said the debate should be between Pant and Vihari is simply because Riddhi is the best keeper in the side. On his day, he could be the best keeper in the world. Now, I'm taking Pant in as purely as a batsman. Now, you compare Pant and Vihari as batsmen. Vihari hasn't done anything wrong, but it's unfortunate for him that Pant had a really good series in Australia the last time round. He scored over, I think, 300 runs in that series, and he's again the type of batsman who's aggressive, who can change things around in a session if he gets going, and you're looking for that little bit of X factor. So I'd play Pant ahead of Vihari as a batsman, and I'd have Riddhi keeping for the team. So the debate should not be Saha or Pant. The debate should be Vihari or Pant.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't think I think his lowest score was 25 last time India toured Australia.
I'm not sure, but from what I remember, he had a pretty decent outing.
Yeah. So coming back now, you talked about India's paced attack. I asked you about how India's paced attack is full. We have a good bench strength. Look, not even disregarding the rankings, 3 Australian pacers currently feature in top 10 world rankings. Disregarding that also, do you think Australia currently has the best pace attack in the world? And does India have a fair claim to that throne too?
Look, again, you look at the Australian pace attack, Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, Variety, Delhi. So look, I mean, it's tough to argue that they're the number one attack at the moment. I mean, we like to get carried away with saying number one attack, number two attack, number three attack, number four attack. Who comes up with this? Is there any like who said we are the number one attack in the world? Australia's number one attack. It's just in our head. It's not like an official ranking where you have Steve Smith as the number one batsman in the world, or KL Rahul as the number one T20. I'm just throwing names out there. Number one T. There is no official ranking for best attack or best batting lineup. But that's all us. Like you said. On our WhatsApp groups and trying to do all of that, this one should play, that one should play, this is the best attack, that is a shit attack, that is that was good, this is bad. And from what I've noticed on social media, cricket basically started only after 2000. Anything before 2000 was not cricket. No one takes that into account. 2000 ke pehle to cricket tha hi nahi. We started winning only after 2000, right? We started doing it. If you had to make an all-time 11, India all-time 11, 80% of your players from your all-time 11 will be only after 2000. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 players pre-2000, which will be Sunil Gavaskar, Kapil Dev, and maybe one other player might come in. But otherwise, everyone is after 2000.
Maybe a spinner, yeah.
No, maybe even that won't be. Spinner also won't because you'll throw numbers out there, na. Bedi only had 266 test wickets. Jaddu has 300 wickets. Ashwin has 300 wickets. Harbhajan has 450 wickets. You're only looking at numbers in isolation. अरे इसके तो 400 विकेट है, इसको कैसे नहीं लोगे? इसको तो 500 विकेट है, इसको कैसे नहीं लोगे? So basically, cricket started only after 2000 in India.
Fair enough. Now, coming to batting orders again, another thing that will probably boost somewhat India's confidence is Rohit Sharma may be available for last 2 test matches. But looking at a very practical point of view, he hasn't played a first-class game in probably a year's time. Because last time New Zealand also, I think he was injured. Test series he did not play.
But
so
no one's
he's been playing white ball.
really played a first-class game, right?
They
played a couple of warm-up games. That's
agreed. But Rohit Sharma hasn't been playing since the IPL also. And do you think he'll be match fit? If physically fit?
Well, if he's physically fit, then he's good to go. I mean, we can throw a lot of importance on match, on
game time.
Hasn't played a warm-up game, hasn't done this. But at the end of the day, he's practiced enough. He's played enough cricket in his career, in his life, to know what he has to do. And he's got enough skills and batting ability to go out there and do it. So look, and you said he hasn't played since the IPL. IPL was only last month. It wasn't like the IPL was 6 months ago. IPL was only last month. November. I got over, so it's not that it was such a long time back.
So he's a shoo-in for you if he's fit?
No, I'm not saying he's a shoo-in for me. I'm just saying if he's, again, look, if we go on to win the second test, our batsmen do well, everyone does well, you've still got to find a spot for him, right? Then it comes to a question of who are you going to drop, it's all circumstantial as to what happens. Let's see what happens in the second test. Hopefully we'll do well. Hopefully we'll win. And then there's a bigger debate and a bigger headache for the team selectors to figure out whether they need to fit Rohit in or not. But look, obviously with his ability and his skill, you would try and find a way for him to play. But he's not. I don't think he's a shoo-in. But I mean, I'd pick him. But in what the team management would do, I don't know.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess that probably sums it up. But before we close, we wanted to understand your thoughts on how you feel the next 3 tests will pan out. What are we looking at? Are we looking at
I think it's going to be tough. Again, this is a battle between head and heart. Heart obviously will keep saying be optimistic and we'll do well. But the fact, like I said, is that we'll be weakened with Shami not being there, with Virat not being there. Two of our major players now not being available for us is going to weaken us. They'll have David Warner back, who is one of their major players, so that strengthens them. So, look, obviously, the way I see it, I think Australia start as favourites, but this team has enough quality, you know, to turn things around. I don't think that, second innings 36 hopefully will not have a big impact. It's a one-off, and I think that's how the team management and the team players will see it. It's a one-off. It can happen to anyone, and any team, teams can get stuck in a bad session, and you can be dismissed for a low score. And I think they've got enough experience to realize that. But I think Australia will be favourites going forward into the next 3 tests.
Right. So we are 1-0 right now, and us in this part of the 2000 love numbers. So give us a number.
I'd say 3-1.
Okay.
3-1.
Yeah.
3-1-2.
Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope and pray and wish that it is 3-1 to India. But like I said, if I've said Australia are going to start favourites, I can't suddenly say India is going to win 3-1. I mean, I'll be contradicting myself in the space of 2 sentences.
Great. So on that note, thank you very much, Rohan.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Very kind.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you, Rohan.
All right.
All right, take care. Merry Christmas.
so
Happy New Year.
I check it like you read Singh bowling it, yeah? I really don't mind.
You hit me once, I hit you back.
He's bowling like my Auntie Annie when she'd had too much sherry to drink.
Played over my head, then I set fire.
मैंने कहा बेटा बेटा होता है और बाप बाप होता है.